Welcome to No Code Explorers, the podcast where we relentlessly search for the answer to one singular question. How far can we get without coding? It's been about 2.5 years since I first became obsessed with no coding, and I understood that we could develop startup products without any code or with a little code only. Since then, technology evolved so much that now I really want to understand and find out the extreme cases. People who are building very robust products without any code or with very little coding. Want to join me in this exploration? And today we have June Swatzell. I had a wonderful time talking to June. She has the most amazing stories to tell. She's an activist, a founder, a community person. She does so much for her community. And now she launched OrganicNearby.com, a startup to connect farmers and consumers who want fresh organic products at their homes. OrganicNearby is built 100% using Bubble, and you're gonna hear the stories of how June got there. I'm thrilled to have you, June. Welcome.
Thank you. You're so kind.
Before we dive into the no-code stuff, I would love to hear your background a little bit, your story, and how did you get here, even before OrganicNearby, which I want you to talk to about.
Well, I'm a community activist. I try to make things better for everyone. We lived in a small town. We had 6 children. I started an arts association. We helped design a new high school in the town. We helped build the first auditorium in the small town. I've always had a small business. I had a design agency for a while, and my husband was a graphic designer, and I would talk to the clients and he would do the designing. So that's my background. I'm a non-technical. I'm not a big business person. I'm more interested in changing lives and having a healthy community for people to live in.
Amazing. Tell us the story of OrganicNearby. How did it start? What was the sparkle that ignited it?
Well, like I said, we have 6 children, and I cook all the meals. We never went out. My husband is a fine art potter, and he became an educator. And so money was always tight, and I was always trying to find the best products, the best food, the freshest food to cook for the family. Because if you put in all the work to cook food for your family and shop, you need to start out with the freshest products. So organic food was basically what I was looking for. And I had to check every single grocery store within driving distance to see how much their organic products cost. And I had to also go to a few different farmers markets to check the prices and the products that they were selling in order to decide what to buy. So I really created this for all the people who are cash strapped, who, can't afford to go to their local Whole Foods or whatever. That's why I created it. Yeah. I created it because I was poor and I wanted to have the best food for my family.
That's an amazing inspiration. And OrganicNearby is?
It's a portal, it's a search engine, and it's a directory which aggregates and provides the consumer with information about fresh, local, and organic food by connecting them with local farmers and vendors and grocers and their products. And so if you go to the website OrganicNearby.com, you can put it geolocates to wherever you are. So we have farms all over the United States that have put in products, and you can put in eggs. And let's say you want to shop within 10 miles of your home, and you put in how far you want to drive. And all of the free-range eggs, organic eggs, farm eggs will come up, and the farmers have their prices, they have their location, and many of them have their growing practices. Because the farms are mostly seasonal, we're also going to be scraping local grocery stores for their organic products.
Got it.
So that you can shop at the grocers, you can shop at the farmers market, or you can just shop with individual farmers.
Perfect. Yeah. So in other words, if I can't buy directly from the producer, I still have the option of, I don't know, the tomatoes getting from nearby Whole Foods or any other supermarket, but the eggs from the producer directly.
You can, yes, you can buy. They're all listed on there. Right now, we're in the process of scraping the grocers. It's the most complicated part of the no-code process. Everything else has been built out. And we wanted to see whether the farmers were actually interested in putting their product on this resource. And it turns out that we are the only free marketing resource for small farms on the whole entire web that I can find, and which is pretty amazing. And we get tremendous feedback from those farmers. So we wanted to create a really good working website before we went to the next step and see if it was useful. And we have really good feedback from the farmers and from consumers.
You launched about 6 or 5 months ago, right?
Yeah, we launched somewhere in April, I think.
Perfect. Yeah, and you ended up using Bubble as the main technology for this website, right?
Right. It happened because I was pitching at Techstars, a Techstars startup weekend.
Yep.
And one of the mentors saw my team and my idea, and she was visiting with Manuel Strashnikov, the CEO of Bubble.io. And she mentioned to him my idea, and she connected me with Emmanuel. And that's how I found out about Bubble. Yeah. And then I tuned in to one of his interviews, someone who had interviewed him. And I love that he created his platform bootstrapping for 7 years. And he just now took investment. Yes. And so, and he created it for people like me who are non-technical. Yeah. That's how we found Bubble.io. And as it was, I tried to learn how to do it, but I'm super non-technical. So I found a developer through Facebook who develops Bubble, and I told him what I wanted to do, asked him if it was possible and how much you would charge. Yeah. And it was less than $300. Wow. For the MVP. Wow. And I didn't even have that. So my one of our daughters said, I was going to sell my computer to fund the MVP. And my daughter says, no, Mom, don't sell your computer. I'll fund it. She's a teacher. And so she funded the MVP. And that developer from Brazil, Thiago Miguel, he's still on our team. And I'm just so thankful for the work he did. He spoke Portuguese, I spoke English, but somehow we made it work. You managed
to do it with different languages.
Absolutely. Wow. He spoke a little English and he showed me his work and we Zoomed. I had been volunteering for a local college in their startup program. And so I asked the professor if he could find me a student who would help me design, because Thiago was mostly into developing. And so a student designed this with me for a grade in the class.
Amazing. And I need to comment on this, but before that, was Tiago the first developer you talked to?
No, he wasn't. No, he was. A lot of people contacted me, but he was the most authentic and easy to work with. And I asked him, well, it turned out, see, my husband's a fine art potter.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was talking to him, I found out his mother was a potter.
Got
and
it.
so we exchanged pictures of the pottery, and his dad builds kilns. And so I went, and I asked him to see his work, and he had built an app to deliver to deliver restaurant food for the local restaurant products, those local restaurants in Brazil, in the town where he worked. And I said, hey, he can do it.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Just to point out, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, being non-technical and being involved in the startup community for a few years, as I saw you've been. That's not that common to be able to find a developer. If we were talking about coding instead of no-code tools, it would be even harder to find someone and attract that someone at an affordable price where you don't need to sell your MacBook to make it happen.
Totally.
I think this speaks a little about one of the magics of no code, because it's not as hard to do it. So there are more people willing to do it, not at this moment, but it will be there. I think there will be a multitude of Bubble, Webflow, or other tools developers in the near future. So more non-technical founders will be able to have the experience you had. And I'm not even talking about the product itself, just being able to find someone to join you and build your thing is amazing.
Absolutely. It is, because I'm really involved in the startup community, and I could not afford a developer, even with friends. I mean, but what's funny, after Thiago made the original MVP, he had a lot of projects going. So I advertised locally in our just a local Facebook page in our tech community in Spokane. And I said, does anybody do Bubble.io? I'd like you to get some bugs out of my website. And someone that I had volunteered with 10 years ago, when he was 20, and he was going to college. Now he's 30, and he's got a big time job. He goes, hey, I do Bubble. I'll fix the bugs for you. And if you don't have funding, I'll do it pro bono.
And that's the beauty of a mission-driven startup, right? Because people will, it's such an important thing, like buying organic, for a multitude of reasons, that people will join you. Even of course, have someone join you full time would not be as easy as like contributors. And someone like Tiago, who would build the initial version, it's also hard. But when you are a mission-driven founder, you have this in your favor, right?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. I don't know how to be anything other than mission-driven, to tell you the truth. That's just the way I am. I built an art association. Yeah. Now I'm building a website so people can eat more healthy and be able to afford it.
Yeah.
So.
And just so I understand the products, with the goal of understanding how far can we get with no code before we need some coding. What were the easier parts to build on Bubble? What were the hardest? And you were mentioning like the scraping part being hardest. But even before talking about the scraping, which would be the next step for the first version, where were the challenges?
For someone like me, was getting the vision of what I ultimately wanted the website to look like. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to be super simple and super efficient. And that's what I was going for. I wasn't looking for anything trippy or any pizzazz or anything. I just wanted people to be able to use it. So, and for it to be bug-free. And that's what we went for. And that's what we accomplished. That's what Thiago and I started with. And then Adam Parrish, who took over the development, even though Thiago still works with us, Adam calls himself a designer who develops. So he loved redesigning the website to make it better and easier. And I love that Thiago is in Brazil and that he has a whole community there. In fact, Brazil is really hot on Bubble.
Do you know, I am from Brazil, so yes.
Far out. Oh, I totally love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know the community here, the software development community in Brazil is very strong. That's why I'm today I leverage this strength in my work, and I'm discovering that the no code community here is very strong also. So in the past couple of years, I've been researching and getting involved in no code stuff, and I couldn't agree more. The community here is very strong. All right, so you built with them, and the biggest challenge was getting the experience right, making it real simple and working perfectly. How long since you started working with Thiago until you launched?
Just a few months. That's all it took. It took him about a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably create a timeline on that. That's a good question, but it didn't take very long at all, just a couple of months. And then we started just refining it, trying to get the bugs out. Then the big thing was, which my mentor, who became my co-founder, he said the big thing, June, was going to be to get it known all over and get farmers to put their products on. That's what I've been focused for the last few months, is connecting with farmers, finding out what they need most, making it super easy for them to put their products on, and even visiting their farms. And I have the best garden this year because I'm on all the farmer pages.
Yes.
I know when to plant the seeds, and it's the coolest. It's just the coolest startup because you're working with every farmer is an individual small business person.
Yeah. The experience for the farmers and producers is like self-service. If I'm a farmer, I can go to OrganicNearby.com and just register.
Just register. We made it similar to Craigslist because people are familiar with that. Yeah. And so the farmers who put their products on have no problem. And I text them, I say, if you have any problem, let me know. And I'm telling you, we have rural farmers.
Yeah.
These guys are out there. And some of them are in the city. They have small urban farms, but a lot of them are way out in the country and they still can put their products on.
Yeah. And one of the things I like about hearing this is the main idea the startup community has today is that no code is great for prototyping. And of course, we're stretching these limits, but what I'm starting to see and what I'm hearing when you say it is it's much more than prototype. You can create a very good experience with no code. Does that resonate?
Totally. The developer who is designing, constantly working on it now, he is a well-known developer in our community, and he has no problem in saying, hey, we can do this, and making it look good. It's all on. He even is investing his own money in the website.
Wonderful.
And paying for the app creation, the little programs that we have to use. So
that is amazing to have tools that allow you to build a real product, a real startup product without any coding. is just incredible. And
Totally.
how about the scraping part, which would be more like back-end work in terms of development? Are you going no code for the scraping as well?
We are now. We're we're working on 2 apps. Right now, it's just a website and mobile friendly.
Mm-hmm.
He's right now making an iOS app and an Android app. And then we want to get the scraping started and hopefully working before the farms start losing.
The season changes before.
Till the.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a matter of fact, I didn't even think of the farmers when I created this site.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to scrape the grocery stores.
Got it.
But then when COVID hit, then the whole focus was on food security and community sustainability. Mm-hmm. And there was already a committed marketplace for people who shop locally. So that's why we decided hey, this already exists. Let's just bring on the farmers. They need it. It turned out we were their only marketplace. We are their only marketplace. One of the local universities, I believe it's the University of Idaho Extension Service, who works with teaching small farmers, micro farmers. Now there's farmers, vertical farmers. There's farmers who just grow microgreens right in their home. This university created a website with resources for these small farmers, even created a farmers market for them in Idaho, I believe Moscow, Idaho. And when they saw our site, they said, "This is fantastic. We're putting you, OrganicNearby.com, on our website as a resource for small farms." So it's sort of even more than, a commercial site. It's actually a resource.
Yes. After you have the grocery stores scraped and all there, do you have a vision for where do you want to get to? Or is it just like you're iterating and learning and seeing, because you weren't even thinking about the farmers, then the opportunity came, you adapted? Is it more iterating, or do you have a long-term vision that you're taking one step at a time?
Well, we do have a long-term vision. I try and work on what comes up at the time. I'm concentrating on the farmers right now, but my co-founder, Chris Wood, is an entrepreneur, an inventor. He teaches at the local university. He's got so many things. He wants shopping carts. He wants it to be a marketplace where people can buy right off the site, where they can add up their groceries, where people can go to the local farmers market. Everything will be paid for. You just have to go pick up your food. Or you can go to the groceries, click into the grocery stores, and they already have their shopping carts. And so it's really a place to compare prices and products and growing practices. And it's local everywhere.
Yeah. When you and Chris get together to discuss this roadmap, like, do you see yourselves converting to custom built software like coding in the future? Or do you see yourself like stretching no code as far as you can? And what's the vision around the product development? That's
a really good question. I haven't asked Adam that, but we haven't talked about going to regular coding. He's a regular coder developer. Mm-hmm. But right now, everything works perfectly on our website. I mean, and so if we can, and I have asked the no-code community about scraping. Mm-hmm. And they say that there is no problem at all in integrating that into our website. And what I'm looking forward to is that after we scrape, let's say, a couple of local grocery stores and integrate them into our website, that they will see that it's beneficial for them to connect through an API. And then we won't even have to scrape. But everything has its time. And it's now that we have something built for a community, for the community of farmers who really need it, then we'll just go step by step to add in the grocery stores, and they'll complement the farmers. And many small farms sell to the local grocery stores. The local grocer 1 mile from me, it's owned by employees. It's called Yolks Grocers. And I walked in the other day, they had a blackboard in the produce just facing you as you walk in. And it says, we have over 300 local products, locally produced products in our stores. So having the grocers will be complementary to the local farms.
Yeah, but ideally, of course, if you can have all the farmers in the US there, the grocery would be more of a backup for the harder the logistics that they have that allows them to offer products like the all year round, right?
Right, like bananas for Eastern Washington and mangoes and pineapples from Hawaii, stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
One thing I would love to learn from you is right now you have a product and you have two amazing developers that build the product for you on Bubble. What's the workflow when you need to make like a small tweak? Let's say you want to change the text at the homepage, like the tagline or something like that. Very, very simple change. Is it something you do? Is it something you ask them? What's the workflow around small tweaks?
I just ask, I email Adam, and it's done within the hour. It's totally crazy. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, he can fix things so fast. And I have another person on my team, Connor Simpson, and he does marketing for a local, for Limelight Technologies. And I said, we need a newsletter. And so Connor goes, hey, I can help you design a newsletter, no problem. And I said, well, how do I send it out? Oh, I'll come to your house and show you. My husband is so happy that I'm able to do this and stay busy that when we have pottery that comes out of the kiln, we give it to the people who help us with the website.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I can't help but think like how different this experience is from the average non-technical founder starting things. If it might be with code or even with no code, like, oh, I asked it and it's done at the end of the hour. And the common story, unfortunately, is, oh, I want to change one text in this website and I need the developer to do that. And they are busy working for, I don't know, Uber. It feels, there are two things in my mind. The first one is you are blessed by a great team and people who are really on board. But also I think no code makes it easy for them to do the work. So it's also something that costs them very little to change something on the site. Do you have a feeling around this?
My developer doesn't talk very much.
Yeah.
So I have to ask him specific questions. I'd have to ask him. I just say, oh, could you change this? And within the hour, it's done. And I'll go, oh my gosh, you're so incredible. And I think it's also the nature of the website, being that it's basically for community, for health. I mean, eventually, we see it as a business. My co-founder is totally business. He's all business. And as a matter of fact, he mentored me for 3 years and told me nobody will shop for groceries online. You're just wasting your time, June. And I said, I know this is right. I know this. And because my daughter is a professional And she'd come home and she'd shop at Walmart and she'd shop online and go pick it up inside the store. This is before COVID. And I'd go, why? Why don't you shop like the rest of us? And then but she didn't have time. It's just a more efficient way to live is shopping online. So he kept saying, but then COVID hit and I was doing the Techstars and I kept trying to explain my idea and it was difficult for me to explain it. I said, Chris, I need a web flow. We need to make an MVP. And like in an hour, he sends me the web flow all written out, and everything. And I asked my daughter, who gave me the money for the MVP, I said, Rosa, can you make this into a video of how it will work? And she makes it into a video and sends it back. And we sent it to Emmanuel, this is how it's going to work. But part of that is that I volunteered a lot at Startup Weekend. When we had it here, I think I volunteered for 9 events. And through that, I learned a lot about the different people in the startup community, or the people that just were excited about creating successful businesses within their community. So this is, even though it looks like it only took a couple of months, it was 10 years in the development.
Making. Yeah, I was curious about it. When you mentioned that Chris mentored you for 3 years before you built it. Was he mentoring you around this idea? Did you have the idea for a long time before that?
Yeah, I had the idea for 4 years. For when I first got the idea, I went to the local startup events, and I always went to the ones that were free, basically, and especially the ones that had free lunches.
Yeah. When I travel to San Francisco, there's many meals I do at events, at startup events.
There you go. And so I kept asking him questions, but he's just, he's a genius. He's a brainiac. In fact, there was someone last year, or after we launched, that had $25,000 that wanted to invest in our startup. But he had different ideas. And so I showed it to Chris, and Chris said, no, we don't need that. We're doing fine. We'll just go this way until we make it pay for itself. I also mentored my son, our youngest son, who would not go to college. And I brought him into Startup Weekend, which taught you Agile. Yeah. Lean methodology, and Eric Rice's, all books. And I mentored him. Now he's way high up in a local startup in Spokane. So this has really a lot of ramifications. Yes. It started out about me, but it turned into something that actually helped our children and is bringing a future to small farms marketing their products. And it's because of no code that we could produce this.
That's incredible, the ramifications, and because of the low barrier to entry, it ramifies with more ease, right? It spreads. One thing I'm curious about, if you were thinking about this idea for a few years before you actually were able to make it into a product, 4 or 5 years ago, no code wasn't as strong. Like you didn't have, Bubble didn't do as much, Webflow didn't do as much, and all the other tools weren't as advanced. Did you consider doing custom code back then?
Oh yeah. I definitely, but I never even heard of no code until Jacqueline Marshall, the Techstars mentor, introduced me to Emmanuel. Then I looked at his interview and I was just totally blown away because to me, startups require a community.
Yeah.
People like me who are economically challenged. I'm not going to a university, and then everything shut down. I was the most productive during quarantine because everybody was online.
Yeah.
And the communities went online and they sort of opened up a little bit that way. But startups are about a startup community. That's how I look at it. I'm totally into the startup community, helping them, posting for them. I post for a local startup medical funding community just to help out, you know.
I want to continue investigating this because I think the contrast between your early days and now it will help other founders who are listening to understand, to have a better sense of the market for coding versus the market for no code, the options, etc., etc. So back then, when you considered hiring developers, not hiring or finding co-founders, etc., were you actively looking for a technical co-founder back then, or someone to build a custom built software for you?
I was looking, but I didn't have any funds to hire anybody. So I was just basically drawing it out on pieces of paper with stick figures.
Yeah.
And seeing if I could get people interested in doing it. But I don't know if this would help. Well, 10 years ago, I had an idea, and I to give every store a website on the internet. I put my ideas down. Everybody I knew, I would give them a disc with my ideas on it, trying to get them interested in what I was doing. And I finally found an investor in Silicon Valley, and he put in $1 million and worked with me for 4 years.
Wow.
And we hired someone, and that person charged $360,000 to develop our website. And to me, the investor was a brick and mortar person, so he didn't know about how much websites cost.
Yeah.
We were way overcharged. So that was my first experience with a conventional coder. That after my investor took it over and he eventually closed it down, I started looking deep, and I Googled deeper and deeper, like 20 pages down, and I found he was charging $300 an hour 10 years ago. I found that he had it made in India, and they charged $15, and it was on their website. I found it in India. That was my experience with regular coding.
Yeah, so you've been burned like many non-technical founders are. And
yeah,
someone I admire a lot, Gina Bianchini, founder of Mighty Networks and previously Ning.com. And she usually says like dev shops will take non-technical founders for a ride.
Totally.
And of course, I know that's not always the case, but I think there is something happening with no code that allows us to, for example, if you were to take a look at this person's code to see if they were doing a good job, or even if they were working at all, you as a non-technical person would not be able to understand what was there. But if imagine you hired a different developer that wasn't as engaged as Thiago, and you wanted to have a call with them and show me what you got. They would be able to share the screen and show you what they were doing on Bubble, and you would be able to understand it.
That's what happened.
Yeah,
That's definitely what happened.
sometimes, and if the story you told me is, it might be a little more than the average non-technical founders get ripped off for, but it's very common. If this story were to happen with no code, you would have much more control over it. Is that, does that resonate with your experience?
I think so. I think that I come back to community again. That hanging out in a startup community, I mean, I didn't understand anything. I went into my first startup weekend and I asked the 16-year-old kid next to me, what is going to happen? You know, and he had never been to one, but he knew exactly what was going to happen. So for someone like me, who's really non-technical and more visionary than, you know, I have to make 10 times on my dollar and stuff like that. I think it really comes down to community. No code is part of the startup community now. And I don't think it's very well known where I am in Spokane. But actually, I think that even regular developer businesses will be using things like Bubble to create an MVP to give the founder a vision of what their product will look like. I know I'm emphasizing community. No code is really part of the startup community. My daughter told me, hey, Mom, you know how they were teaching all the kids to code? The big push a couple of years ago was get all the kids coding.
Yeah.
She says, I don't even think coding's going to be a big deal very soon because I think it's going to be no code.
Yeah, I think my opinion is that it will always be a big deal because it will be necessary for the things that no code can't do. So it will be even more valuable for those things, but it's gonna be like a waste of time for things that can be done with no code. I've been working with software development for 20 something years now. I'm an engineer myself, and I don't want to code things that can be done with no code because it doesn't make sense. I'm using a lot Webflow these days. Haven't got too much into Bubble specifically, but Webflow, when I'm doing things on Webflow, I think this is much better than coding. This is much easier than coding. Of course, there are things that there are constraints and there are limitations. Yeah. For those, I don't hesitate and go straight to coding when I need something done. But there are so many things that I can do that even myself being a developer, I don't wanna code when it's not necessary anymore.
My daughter is creating a fintech which teaches children how to manage finances.
That's beautiful.
And we're pushing the limits of no code. You know, we're finding out how, because she created hardware and she contacted Bubble and some people who teach for Bubble, who are helping her to see if no code can attach to hardware successfully. You know, no code, I don't know, it's like the automatic transmission. After you use a stick shift. Exactly. You know, we're all driving automatics, you know, but we have stick shifts in our truck. Yeah,
exactly. There will always be some people who prefer stick, right? No problems with that. But I agree with your daughter that no code will be a much bigger push around education in the next few years than coding, because it has so much leverage. If you can experiment and do things in less time and with less of a steep learning curve, which coding has. If you want to be a developer, you have to go through a steep learning curve. And if you want to do things with no code, it's not that steep. You still have to invest time. It's not something it requires many hours of investment, but it's not years, just like software development. right?
You don't have to go to college.
Don't have to go to college. I don't think you have to go to college to learn how to code also, but it feels like
Really?
a graduation. Like it feels like you need to go to graduate school, even if you're gonna. I never went to college for that. I'm self-taught around coding, but in most of the people that work with me are also.
Self-taught coding. Wow. My husband put in the first high-tech commercial art department in a high school in the state of Washington.
Wow.
So we had the first Macs, and I think we had the Apple IIes, and then we had the first Mac with a little screen and everything.
Wow.
And the floppy disk. And to me, the internet was always like magic. I never knew how it worked. Even when I created my first startup, I sort of skipped that whole part. And then I read a book, I think it's called Tubes. Have you read that book called Tubes?
No, haven't heard of it.
It's awesome. And it tells how the tubes go, like they go from the major cities that where commerce always went to, where the ships went to. And so then I learned how the internet worked and the wiring. I still don't really know very much, but as long as it works, it's sort of like electricity. I don't know how it works, but I still plug things in.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of no code. You don't need to know what's under inside the engine. You just drive the car, right?
You just put in the oil.
Yeah.
Put in the gas.
Yeah.
Turn on the ignition.
Amazing. June, this was an incredible conversation. I'm so grateful that you joined us today.
Oh, you're so sweet. I love it.
Your story is a story of resourcefulness and community building, mission, vision. So it was an immense pleasure.
Thank you so much. I hope soon to have OrganicNearby.com in Brazil.
Let's do it.
As soon as we get everything going, because I joined the Y Combinator startup school, and I've been talking to founders all over the world. And the first thing they say is, we want OrganicNearby here. I'm in Italy.
Yeah.
My girlfriend loves this, and food is global. We all shop. Are you shopping online in Brazil?
Kinda. I live in a 20,000 people town, so it's not that easy to shop online, but we do. It works, but sometimes some of the things we order don't arrive, and then we need to go to the shop, the shop also. So it's not working perfectly. It still have a little bit of friction, but we do. It was a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I hope you come to Brazil and you have OrganicNearby all over the world soon.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
I hope you got excited to build your own thing with no code after this conversation. And if you want more, please follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming service. I'm Daniel Weinmann, and this was No Code Explorers.